How's it going, friends? This video I've already done once before 3 years ago. I've been making videos steadily on this channel for over 3 years. Actually, yesterday, 3 years ago, was my first closing ever in real estate. But I'm talking pros and cons of living in the Twin Cities. It's a 3-year-old video at this point. Seems like it probably should be redone. And some stuff has changed, and I also have gotten better at making videos. And I've also gained insight from helping a ton of different people move to the Twin Cities from all over the planet. That is not an exaggeration. So let's talk about it, the pros and cons of living in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. Let's go. How's it going, my friends? My name is Jesse Lynch, and I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To The Twin Cities, and you can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. But this YouTube channel, it's all here for you as a resource, whether you're buying a house for the first, second, third time, or if you're relocating here from a different city, state, country, planet, dimension, realm, universe, whatever it is. First-time home buyers in general, looking for information, or folks who are relocating. That's what we do. That's what we do better than anybody else. So if any of that appeals to you, then do me a favor, do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel, click that little bell to get notified so you can see every time we put out a video just like this. And if you wouldn't mind, give the video a thumbs up, say something nice or helpful or funny or whatever in the comments. And I say this every video, but I truly mean it. If you have any interest in working with us, we would absolutely love to help you. We've helped a ton of people move here from all over the place, and it's what we do, it's what we specialize in. So you can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can just shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. Totally up to you how you do it. They lead to the same inbox, so truly have no preference at all, but look forward to helping you. Look forward to, you know, getting you here and making everything happen for you. Like I said, I already did this video once before, but this one will be an improvement on the previous. This is another iteration of it, and again, I spent a lot of time helping people relocate. I know what's awesome about this place. I know what maybe is not so awesome about this place. Trust me, stick with me, keep watching, let's go. All right, this first part, it's a con. I'm gonna just get this out of the way because it's important. Yes, it's obviously a huge factor in living here, but I honestly just think it's kind of boring, which is that it gets cold here. Our winter, without a doubt, is a reason that way more people don't live here. I really believe that if Minnesota was easier to live in the winter, if the cold wasn't as much of a factor, we would have way more people living here. And a lot of the pros that I'm about to cite in this video wouldn't be pros anymore because we'd be overpopulated, there'd be too many people here, and a lot of the benefits would be gone. So yes, our winters get cold, very, very cold, statistically, and also just from a vibe check, right? But oddly enough, I do believe that that contributes to making the Twin Cities a phenomenal place to actually live, put in roots, start a family, whatever it is that you're trying to do, enjoy life, whatever it is that you're trying to do and trying to get out of living here, and ultimately just enjoying life. By the way, this is a pretty interesting view of Minneapolis that you're not gonna see very often. Sure, you'll see a lot of stuff from the river over here, but very often it's further down that way. That's because I'm on Nicollet Island right now, right by the pavilion. Check it out. All right, let's keep going. All right, this absolutely beautiful building is the Como Conservatory, Como Park, generally here, Como Zoo. I'm surrounded by Como Park and Como Lake right over there. There's a lot of comos to say in one run-on sentence. I want to talk about the first pro. I think this is one of the biggest pros that people we've helped have cited. It's not necessarily a pro that you think of if you live here, because it's, you know, it's just like inherent. You're just used to it, which is that we are a bit of a climate refuge for a lot of people. We are extremely insulated from extreme weather here. Again, we do get winter, right? That might be considered extreme to some people, and we get blizzards, I suppose, that might be considered extreme. It doesn't shut down the city. It doesn't really have too dramatic of an impact on lifestyle. Tornadoes are a thing in Minnesota occasionally, but it's certainly not a tornado alley kind of place. We don't have earthquakes, we don't have hurricanes or, you know, tropical storms or anything like that. We also certainly don't have wildfires, which is something, again, a lot of the people that we've helped have cited as, they're like, I just got to get away from this. This is not something that I want to, you know, be exposed to for the rest of my life and or expose my children to, etc. One of our clients quite literally is a water expert who moved here, who was working for a state, I won't name what state, as fundamentally their sole water conservation, water usage expert in a particular field. And he moved here because of water, right? Fresh water is everywhere here, from the lakes to the rivers to the rain that we get every spring and throughout the summer. And as I'm sure you know, fresh water is life. But the second con, based on the weather, is that our summers actually get pretty warm and pretty humid. I think a lot of people, like right now, it's pretty humid, tolerably warm. I'm happy to be outside. I often think that the winter contributes to our willingness to go outside. Anytime it's probably above 40 degrees, but for sure, the humidity is a real factor. Some people just can't stand the sticky heat, which, fair, it does get sticky, it does get hot, but I think it's not even close to what I hear from so many of the folks that we help from much, much warmer climates. Sure, it's warm. We have days over 90 degrees, the occasional day over 100 degrees, but those are a rarity, whereas other people are used to those week-long, 20-day stretches of that kind of warmth. So the folks here are obviously gonna say that, it does get really humid, it sure does get hot, but it's nothing like what a lot of the people that we help have dealt with. Right now I'm in Uptown, and I live adjacent to Uptown. I spend a decent amount of time in Uptown, you know, enjoying what it has to offer, which is largely restaurants, shops, and commercial things as far as I'm concerned. But for me, one of my absolute favorite things, I think the thing that stands out the most to myself and a lot of the other people that we help, is that there's a much lower level of friction to do day-to-day tasks all around the metro. Downtown, it's much easier to get to downtown than in a lot of other areas. If you want to go to the lake, Budaymacaska's right down there, Lake Harriet's right down there, you're going to be able to do that, and it's not going to be this whole thing. You're not going to have to spend hours just getting to the thing that you want to do. If you want to go to the grocery store, it's not going to be this, you know, headache of a thing to go to. There's going to be plenty of parking pretty much always, and I think that is the thing that affects your quality of life and your day-to-day more than anything else, is the friction. And I think a lot of people don't know how to put their finger on those things, the things that they don't like, but I think it's friction. Another one of my absolute favorite things about the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul in specific, is that the downtown areas are really quite clean, quite nice, quite livable. I used to live in downtown East, which is basically just right over there. I loved living in downtown East. Our new office is pretty much just adjacent to downtown, but I really love this area. I think the city does a really good job maintaining it, keeping it livable, keeping it hangoutable, keeping it, you know, not grossing you out as you're walking around. I've been to a lot of cities where that is not the case. Another undeniable pro of the Twin Cities is the bikeability. It's consistently voted the best or second best most bikeable metropolitan areas in the country, and for sure we accommodate that so much. And no, I'm not talking about that kind of bike. I'm talking about bicycles. There are bike lanes all over the place. There are specific bike routes, like literally all over Minneapolis and St. Paul. You can get clear across both cities, both north to south, east to west. It's very robust in that way. You could also hop on a light rail or a bus, and they have bike racks on the buses, on the light rails. And even if you're not super into biking, but you would do it occasionally, there's tons of bike rentals, sort of city-based bike rentals. A lot of metros have that, but we obviously have it as well. The walkability aspect, there are several areas that are extremely walkable. I have about a 45-minute long video on this channel called Most Walkable Neighborhoods in the Twin Cities, and this one that I'm in right now counts as one of them. This is North Loop, Minneapolis. Let's keep it moving. All right, I'll be honest, I don't know exactly where to put this next con or pro, which is the traffic. For sure, we do have real traffic here, right? Like you can see, that's like legitimately slowed down during rush hour, and you can come to a stop on the highway. So if you're coming from somewhere where that like basically doesn't exist, a smaller town, a smaller metropolitan area, then okay, maybe that is a huge con to you. But if you're coming from any of like the major metros in the United States or abroad, then that is probably not a big deal at all. In fact, it probably feels quite easy to get around, which lends to the whole conversation that we had about friction. All right, y'all, right now I'm at Summit Overlook Park, which, I mean, I'm on Summit Avenue, basically. It is quite an overlook. It's a beautiful spot in St. Paul. Summit Avenue is crazy. I'm gonna go there at some point in this video, if I haven't already. But this next con is actually a collection of cons, or maybe a category of cons, which has everything to do with driving. The traffic here, again, I'm not sure if that's a pro or a con. I'm discussing traffic at a different point in this video, and this though is just a different part of it. And most of it is driving that is less than desirable. That sucks, I guess. Generally related to winter, which the first of which is potholes. We have basically what I think of as a pothole season, which would be spring right after winter, when everything melts and all of the ice and the snowpack melts out of the potholes that the freezing created. That is a tough time to drive a vehicle. It gets really bumpy and the roads feel really not fun to drive in. For the most part, the city crews will come in shortly thereafter and start filling them as quickly as possible. But it's a big job and it always takes a while. And then of course, once spring comes around, spring through fall, it has a nickname around here, which is road construction season. It's basically just because winter takes up a decent amount of the year, road work can't really be done during that time, so the road crews have to utilize the warmer weather, and so warmer seasons tend to be pretty filled with road construction. Of course, I'd have to mention just driving in the snow and the ice. That's not super fun. We also have a thing called black ice, which is basically an invisible ice that forms in the winter. Usually it is from the exhaust of vehicles. Snow in general, I have a whole video about how to survive the winters here. A big portion of that is about driving. And I would say the biggest thing for me would be good tires and just drive a little bit slower, brake earlier, be more careful in that season. And then I would say last but not least, there's another phenomenon that we have here, which is like weekend heading up north traffic and or heading back from up north on the likes of Sunday or maybe Memorial Day weekend, Monday, which like most traffic is just from a lot of people heading to the same area and maybe not enough road, not enough highway lanes to support that kind of traffic. Lastly, on the road, on the driving situation, is that some people, some newcomers to the area, find the roads a little bit confusing. And I would say more importantly, they find that the maps, Google Maps, Apple Maps, whatever it is that you use, they aren't maybe descriptive enough for how our roads work. It'll say, you know, keep left for this exit, and then right after you keep left, you're supposed to be in the far right lane at that point. So, you know, I don't know why that is, but that seems to be the case. You'll eventually get used to it, you'll learn the roads a little bit, and you won't be missing exits. Right here is Astor Cafe. It's just one of many phenomenal restaurants. It's on St. Anthony, Maine, and the geographical location of Astor Cafe is super cool. Right across from the river, right across from downtown Minneapolis. Can't recommend it enough, but that leads me to my next pro, which is that we have so many great restaurants, a very, very robust food and drink scene. Restaurants from steak to vegan, all sorts of ethnic varieties, and some really great pockets of ethnic cuisine as well around the metro. We have phenomenal coffee shops, bakeries, breweries, distilleries, and really just runs the whole gamut. We have it all. Very, very complete as far as one's options go. And actually, right here is St. Anthony, Maine Theater, and I just gotta show you how this place is situated. The St. Anthony, Maine area is just so beautiful. You have downtown right here. Let's just keep going. And speaking of great scenes, I think I would be remiss if I didn't include what is absolutely one of my favorite personal things about the Twin Cities, which is a very, very rich arts, music, entertainment scene. This right here is the Guthrie Theater. It's a legendary theater here in the Twin Cities. There's a stat that you'll hear thrown around from time to time, which is that Minnesota has the second most theater seats per capita. It's actually not totally true anymore. At one point, it was true though. And I will admit, I'm not as much a theater guy as I am a, you know, maybe going to First Avenue guy, a rock and roll show kind of guy. I played in a band for many, many years, and I've been to all sorts of venues and played all sorts of venues, and I really do believe that the way the Twin Cities sort of encourages arts and encourages like independent music, independent art, and that kind of thing really, really leads to something that makes it special, makes it a great place to live, a great place to visit, and I don't know, a great place to create ideas and do something unique or do something new. Know what I mean? All right, let's keep going. Right here is Nicollet Mall, which is a great like strip of commercial stuff, and there's a lot of things to do along Nicollet Mall, free buses as well. But another pro for me is that I think the metro is laid out just extremely well. We have obviously the Twin Cities, and if you look at a map, see the metro area, pretty much everything that's in the gray or the metro area is about 30 minutes on the edges from downtown, either downtown Minneapolis or downtown St. Paul. And because it's you know, not locked in by mountain or by ocean, it has sort of expanded equally outward, and I think that leads to a very livable, easy to get around area without too unbelievable of traffic. Absolutely undeniable pro is the park space. I just read an article that the Public Land Trust rates metropolitan areas in terms of access to parks, and St. Paul and Minneapolis rank number 2 and number 3 respectively, second only to Washington DC, which is, I don't know, triple the price to buy a home in the Twin Cities. I read that 98% of the population within Minneapolis and St. Paul are within 6 blocks of a park. That is a pretty wild statistic, but it's super believable. There's parks literally everywhere. This is a very lush, very green space oriented metro. And then honestly, I would add on beyond that, it's not just a park space, it's the natural beauty that isn't even a designated park space. The forested area, the lakes that are literally everywhere, the rivers that run through the metro, the green grass that grows in people's yards, and of course, the trees that are literally everywhere. By the way, I'm at Makaska. You can see right over here, downtown Minneapolis. This spot is just one of the best. Right now I'm on McAllister College, which is in the McAllister Groveland area, aka Mac Groveland, which is in what we like to call the Southern Triangle of St. Paul. This is a super popular area among the people that we help move here. It's just got a lot going for it. It's beautiful, including 3 private colleges: McAllister College, St. Thomas, and St. Catherine's, aka St. Kate's. But the reason that I'm talking about these schools is not because these are necessarily on the pros and cons list, but because the education available in Minnesota is really, really high level. According to World Population Review, Minnesota ranks 6th overall in the nation for public schools. Very, very high ratings across the board. It's pretty easy to find a highly rated school, you know, like 7 and above, just about anywhere in the Twin Cities metro. And if you're looking for more elite 9, 10s, we have tons and tons of schools in the 9 and 10 range. Obviously, it depends on where you're looking. In all of our virtual tours, we always talk about schools, and overwhelmingly, the schools get high ratings in Minnesota. Another pro that I totally agree with, and a lot of the folks that we help, especially if they're moving to the city proper, this is something that they're looking for, which is really, really great, you know, old classic architecture of homes, craftsman style, beautiful Tudors, all the, you know, up to mid-century, and just house after house of beautiful examples of this classic architecture. And then combined with tree-lined streets, right? The tree-lined street is such a beautiful aspect of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and it's what a lot of people are after. And then I would also wrap this into, if you're not looking for an older home, you want something newer, we have an extremely diverse housing stock, fundamentally a pretty even split from 1900 all the way to 2023, as that's when I'm filming this video. Summit Avenue, which is absolutely filled with some of the most beautiful homes, most beautiful mansions in all of the Twin Cities. Classic old mansions. James J. Hill Mansion, James J. Hill House, I mean, it's a mansion, is that way. The governor's mansion is quite a ways that way, but this area is beautiful. I just showed a condo in a building about 2 down that way to some clients that we're helping. So cool, so full of history, 1891 build, beautiful. But I'm here to talk about a con, which is that while yes, it's beautiful, we have parks, it's green, we have all the fresh water, what we are lacking in is ocean, right? Of course, no ocean at all. We also, no mountains at all in Minnesota. There are some very large hills, and Summit right here kind of sits over a huge bluff. It's beautiful, over the river, but no mountains. So while yes, it's pretty flat, it's not totally flat, and it's beautiful, but maybe it doesn't have some of the epic landscapes that some people are used to. But if you are questioning that, head up to Lake Superior, the North Shore. That's where it sort of feels the biggest and most intense anywhere in Minnesota. Maybe one of my favorite pros about the Twin Cities is all of the amazing small towns. I think of them as satellite towns to the metro. Right now I'm in Excelsior. This is an absolutely beautiful downtown area. Lake Minnetonka, right over that way. But a few others that come to mind are Wayzata, Stillwater. Wayzata, by the way, just on the other side of the lake. Absolutely beautiful. Stillwater, northeast, metro, just outside the metro. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful area. Northfield, down to the south, absolutely beautiful. Hastings, southeast, beautiful. Chaska, Anoka, and the list goes on. And this next thing, I gotta say, it pains me to even talk about it for a few reasons. For one, it's a little bit of a cliche at this point. 2, it's actually pretty true. And I think it's both a pro and a con, which is, yes, we have all the sports. It's very nice to have access to all the major sports and then some. Collegiate level sports are a big thing here. High school level sports are pretty big here. Maybe not as big as like football in the South, but hockey in Minnesota, high school hockey is a very, very big deal. But that is to say that we have all the sports, you have great access to those things. They're all easy to get to in terms of the metro. This is US Bank Stadium where the Vikings play, Target Field where the Twins play, and Target Center where the Timberwolves play, and the Lynx as well, right over yonder. And then St. Paul is home to the Minnesota United as well as the Minnesota Wild. But the con associated with these sports teams and the access to these sport teams is that they are devastated. It is not very fun to be a fan of Minnesota sports teams because they are a letdown. Also, all of a sudden, there's just so many people around me. I was literally alone moments ago, and now there's so many people. But yes, we have access to sports, but the sports teams are a bit of a bummer. So, you know, have a backup team. All right, next up, let's talk taxes. Taxes in Minnesota, it's pretty undeniable that they are high. Minnesota ranked 6th overall for individual income taxes and 8th just overall across the board. 22nd highest in property taxes and 23rd in total sales and excise tax. For sure, taxes, tough to get away from in Minnesota. But I would argue that you get what you pay for. Our infrastructure, generally quite good. Even though our roads are troubled by winter, they get fixed quickly because our tax money goes to help those things. Okay, y'all, and now here's a con that I'll be honest is a little bit strange to talk about, which is that I think that there's just a stigma associated with Minneapolis. I think it's diffusing, it's going away. Politically, whatever, politics are boring. But personally, the way the media has talked about, the way the public who doesn't actually know anything about Minneapolis might talk about Minneapolis is very frustrating. And I think, like a lot of people, it feels annoying to have to defend a place that I love and a place that I know is amazing to live and I know has so much potential and opportunity for people. But for certain reasons, some obvious, some not as obvious, there's just like this idea that Minneapolis is one thing or the Twin Cities is one thing that, I'll be honest, I just hard disagree with. All right, y'all, this right here, we're in Roseville. This is the first Target ever. And while I guess I would say proximity to so many Targets would qualify as a pro of living in Minnesota, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the economy. Target is based in Minnesota. We have so many other major Fortune 500 companies in the Twin Cities, more Fortune 500 companies per capita than any other metro in the country. Opportunity absolutely abounds in the Twin Cities. If you move here and you don't have a job, sometimes we help a couple where one can work from home and they can move and buy a house, and then the other will get a job when they get here. I've never heard of anybody struggling to find a job once they get here. Again, the opportunity available in the Twin Cities, I believe, is pretty much second to none. And I know I've talked about the weather a lot in terms of being a con, and it's true, there are some cons associated with it, but an absolutely undeniable pro of Minnesota weather, climate, etc. So we have all 4 seasons, and I would argue a very proper example of all 4 seasons, right? We have a proper summer. It gets hot. It gets up to 100 occasionally. We have a proper winter, right? And we have a beautiful spring. Spring is so amazing. The whole area comes alive, right? All of the Twin Cities, Minnesota comes alive. People can't wait to come out because we've been, you know, somewhat inhibited by winter. And then the fall, my God, the fall, you gotta be here. You gotta experience fall in Minnesota. I had a tour where I went all around the country once, and I came back to Minnesota in the fall and I thought, well, this is without a doubt the most beautiful place out of everywhere we've been, which was literally circling the country. And then one little sneaker bonus that I think a lot of people underestimate. People from, you know, the Southwest, California, Arizona, deserty, arid climates. I don't think you really understand what you're missing out on in terms of Minnesota summer nights. It's beautiful and it still feels as summery as it did during the day. Maybe a little more enjoyable because the sun's not out, but it's still warm and it just feels very, very nice. And I think in a lot of these more deserty, arid areas, you don't get this. It gets cold pretty quick and pretty aggressively. Maybe you have sweater weather, which I'm a big fan of. Maybe you can have a fire and enjoy the outside. But I do think that the nighttime gets pretty chilly and not quite as enjoyable as what we experience during our summer. And as always, if you're thinking about moving here, get a hold of us. We would love to help. I hope that this video has been enjoyable, fun, interactive, showing you around. By the way, right now, I'm at Lake Nokomis. It's right over here. This is just Lake Nokomis Park. Beautiful, massive park space. There's what appears to be an adult league softball game going on right there. And yeah, reach out to us, tothetwincities.com, or shoot an email to info@tothetwincities.com. We can't wait to help you. We've helped a remarkable amount of people directly from this YouTube channel, directly from this type of video. So if you're watching this and thinking about reaching out to us, but afraid maybe it's gonna be weird, I promise you it's not. The huge majority of the people we help come from this channel and these videos that we spend a ton of time to hopefully make your process, your journey to the Twin Cities easier. Check out our other channel, by the way, link in the description. We have a podcast on there. We also put other videos out that maybe don't make as much sense on this channel. Also in the description, check out the Facebook group. It's just all people who live here, who have moved here, and you can get interactive. And yeah, round of applause. Somebody just scored. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.